When it comes to reconstruction jobs, it mind boggles me how many restoration companies are just purely leaving money on the table. They either one, just sign a job for $200,000 with an insurance company paying out that money, and they just pray that they will be able to make money and get all those subcontractors and vendors and everything like that to go do the work and put the house back together. Or two, they'll take an average way of budgeting a job and they'll basically say, hey, look, we want to make 50% profit. So they'll take that $200,000 job and set a budget of $100,000 blindly, and then they'll be happy if they hit that $100,000. But in both ways, the restoration contractors are significantly leaving money on the table. And in this video, I want to go through step by step how you as a restoration contractor can maximize the amount of profit that you're making out of reconstruction jobs. Let's dive in. So in this example, we're going to assume that there's an estimate and it's probably written in Xactimate because unfortunately that's kind of the industry standard. And you finally negotiated back and forth with the insurance company and you've got an estimate of, call it $200,000 from the insurance company. And that estimate is going to have probably thousands of different line items on it, right? And they're split up by room by room by room and so on and so forth. The first thing that we want to do is take that Xactimate estimate and transpose it into some way that we can start playing with the numbers. So you can actually export an Xactimate estimate from Xactware into a CSV file and play a little Excel work, or you can make it easier yourselves if you use something like Albi. We actually do all that heavy lifting for you, and you can import an Xactimate estimate directly into Albi. The second step is you're going to want to take all of those line items and group them together into like the different phases of work. So what do I mean by that? If you have a property, you know, for example, after a fire damage job, you're going to first have to do all the demo. So demolition's kind of like that one phase of work. And you typically know that there's a contractor doing that. Then afterwards, you're going to do all the cleaning and the sealing, and you're going to do that internally. Afterwards, have insulation. Afterwards, you're going to have a separate drywall contractor put the drywall in, a separate contractor painting, and so on and so forth. So you want to take that entire Xactimate estimate with all those line items, that $200,000 estimate, and split up all the line items into the groups of what we'll call work orders, or the different tickets that you're going to give to the different subcontractors to perform. And then I'll take all of my drywall line items, including the drywall 5/8 and the mudding and painting, and put those all together. And then I'll go in and take all of my electrical line items, including the rough electrical, and I know also the electrician's going to put the light fixtures up as well. So I'll include all of those and bucket them together into an electrical work order. And now my $200,000 estimate, that's how much revenue I expect to be made on that project, is now split up into 10, 15, 20 work orders of smaller pieces. And all of those work orders have a revenue amount. How much was drywall in this Xactimate estimate? The lazy way to do it is you can go to the recap by category page in Xactimate. But the problem with the recap by category page is that sometimes like covering the floor and protecting the floor is included in painting when actually the drywall guys do it. Sometimes resetting the toilet is included in the plumbing category when in fact it's done by somebody else. So I don't recommend necessarily doing it that way. The third step's really important. It's to know, hey, if I have a $10,000 piece of this $200,000 project that's demolition, I need to really research on what's realistic to apply as a cost, as a budgeted cost for this before I even do the work. So if you were using the example that I gave earlier in this video where you apply a 50% gross margin to that work order, that would basically mean that if I have $10,000 worth of demolition work, I'm only saying that I'm going to spend $5,000 to do the work. But what if you could do the work for $3,000? So that's why the percentage way is flawed. The way you should be doing it is you should thoroughly research and call up subcontractors, give them the scope of work, and try to get some bids on that $10,000 portion of the loss. And after you do it quite a few times, you'll actually start knowing, hey, this is going to cost us roughly this, and you want to budget each piece of these. So the next step is we'll budget every single piece of that job. We'll budget how much the demolition should cost us. We'll budget how much the painting should cost us, and so on and so forth. And this is all before we even start the job. The next step is we want to actually sign contracts with each subcontractor at that dollar amount. A lot of times the contractor doesn't know the scope and we agree on verbally, oh, you'll do the demolition for $3,000, and then they'll do the demolition, they'll come back and say, oh no, I want $7 now or something like that. To be able to communicate clearly how much you agree with the subcontractor, you should have a signed contract between that subcontractor and yourself that is tied to the work order. So now I know I make $10,000 from the insurance company. I'm spending $3,000 with the subcontractor, and I have a signed contract with that subcontractor. The next step is now the work is going on. We have all these signed contracts and people are doing the work. It's very important to job cost and record all of these costs against the work orders. So every single time you go to Home Depot or Menards or you cut a check to a subcontractor, you want to record what the actual cost is, and you want to look how much did you expect to spend for that specific chunk or work order, and then how much did you actually spend. That's the actual job cost. And your accountant can do it, and obviously with softwares like Albi, where we make the whole job costing easy. The next thing that's important is anytime you have some sort of change order or something that's different from the scope, you need to execute what's called a change order, where basically you're making an amendment to the original contract with the subcontractor, and you're also typically going to the insurance company to do what's called a supplement. If there was a granite countertop, for example, and that countertop was supposed to be detached and reset, but now we have to remove and replace it, we need to go in and do a change order with our subcontractor, and at the same time, we need to go back to the insurance company and make sure that they're giving us additional revenue, so that way we're not leaving money on the table. The next step is actually ensuring that your project managers or whoever's running the job is incentivized based on the gross profit and based on the performance of that project in accordance to the budget. I see a lot of times project managers just being straight up salary and having no alignment or incentive to the profitability of the project. It's very, very important as a restoration project manager that there's an incentive on each job that is performed and makes the company gross margin, that they get a little spiff as well. And the last thing is you should always constantly be reviewing the jobs that do not hit those budgets and having conversations with your entire team as to why each job did not hit the budget, and then constantly reevaluating. Are you budgeting differently? Are there certain types of projects you don't make money on? Do you need different subcontractors, and so on and so forth? And adding that into your weekly process to where you're constantly asking yourself why you didn't hit budget on the projects that you didn't hit budget on. So overall, the step-by-step process, taking this big Xactimate invoice that is very intimidating, splitting it up into these different work orders. Instead of just randomly applying a percentage of budget, you actually methodically apply to each one of them a percentage of budget. Then you go into your subcontractors and sign contracts with those subcontractors to bind them to that dollar amount. Then you implement something like job costing to make sure that you have a way to track every single expense that happened under that project. If there are any change orders, you're going to go in and execute a change order with both the subcontractor and you're going to go supplement the insurance company. You're going to align the project manager's expectations of compensation to gross margin and budget expectations. And lastly, you're going to have a reoccurring meeting with your entire project management team as to why you're not hitting budget on those projects that maybe fall under budget, and kind of explore ways to boost that. And if you follow those steps, I'm fairly confident you will be able to take some of that hard-earned money that you're leaving on the table and putting it back into your company's pockets. If you like this content and want to hear more, our mission here at Albi is to propel the restoration industry forward through technology, and every single week we come up with a new concept. If you want to figure out how our work order and job management tool works to help you do what I explained in this process, you could also click the link below and we'll do an obligation-free demo where our team will show you how you can stop leaving money on the table. Talk to you guys soon.